Charles Darwin has a quote. He says, "It's not the strongest that will survive. It is not the most intelligent species that will survive. It is those who can adapt to change that will ultimately be the ones that survive," or something like that. And so I wanted to talk about that because over my career, close to 20 years of entrepreneurship, one of the key elements to my success has been adapting. And so the world is evolving so fast, as we've seen. And let's be clear that this last pandemic has created huge shifts in culture, in our behavior, and just in the way that we're interacting with products, services, technology. And so this has never been a better time in human history for you to be thinking about how you can disrupt or innovate and really adapt to the trends of what's happening in the world. And so many entrepreneurs, so many coaches, consultants, service providers, and just corporations are so attached to the ways that they've been doing things. And they're stubborn and they don't want to change the legacy ways that they interact with their customers and their product and in their business. And I'm telling you right now, those companies are going to die. But the entrepreneurs going forward that actually are willing to make those shifts right now have an opportunity to make more money and more impact than they've ever could have even imagined. There's a $30 trillion shift in wealth that's happening right now. And so you have an opportunity to have a piece of that if you're willing to adapt, if you're willing to be innovative and think differently. And so just think about what industry you're currently in right now, whether it's real estate, whether it's transportation, whether it's marketing and an agency, whatever industry it is, whether it's e-commerce, there's so many things. But like, how is there innovation coming into those industries? You know, for instance, like when the pandemic hit, I realized like it was time for me to shift from just doing in-person events and actually go all in on digital and just creating more courses and building my communities and doubling down on content creation. And so through that, I've been able to skyrocket revenue and skyrocket my impact because that is where the future is going. We also adapted because we realized that people aren't going to be in offices anymore, right? So people aren't just like working in offices and need to be in person. So I let go of the attachment of needing to be in person and decided to launch a company called virtualassistants.io, where you can build a digital team anywhere around the world and leverage the platforms like Slack and Zoom and everything else and be able to work from anywhere around the world and have teams to execute leveraging platforms like Monday.com, Slack, Zoom. And so that's what we did. We built the company to service coaches, consultants, entrepreneurs, and now that company has gotten to 6 figures in revenue per month, and we're just getting started. And first of all, if you're looking to scale your team online, I would go to virtualassistants.io. It'll be in the description. But like just thinking about businesses you can create or ways that you can adapt and innovate the current business strategy. And so thinking about that, and also one of the ways is not just paying attention to the evolution of what's happening in the way that business is being done, but it's also about measuring. Taking the time to measure is a huge process that'll allow you to know when is the right time. And so for me, I'm constantly measuring on a monthly and quarterly basis, ultimately what the effectiveness is in us building our revenue with our clients, like how happy our clients are, looking and studying our financials and the revenue growth. Also, so first of all, just start there, right? Are you measuring? Like, are you actually looking at income every single month and following the trend and noticing that there's a lack in real growth and there's some stagnation? And so that could be an opportunity for you to look at how can you adapt and become more digital? How can you adapt and change something in your business model? And just so measuring is important. And then also just not measuring the company's financials, but I want you also to be measuring ultimately the essence of yourself and your team. And so like you'll know instinctually, like if you're a little unhappy, if you're feeling a little bit like disconnected from the business, if you're feeling a little unmotivated, if your team is also kind of stagnant and feeling unmotivated, that may be an indication it's time for you to adapt. It's time for you to get some excitement and new passion in the company. And it's a great opportunity for you to design something that will bring that, and for you to adapt the company into something new that will be exciting, and for you to get more excited about it. And so that's something else. And for me, like, I always love when the world is going through shifts. I remember the last time we had an economic collapse in 2008. That was an opportunity where I could have went into a victim mentality and continued doing business as is, because I was servicing stocks and public companies and the market crashed, and I could have continued to fight that, right, and resist what was actually happening, or I could adapt it. And that's exactly what I did. And I looked at, okay, the future of digital media. And so what I did was I went and started a new company. It cost me $9.99 during that collapse, and I was Elite Daily, and I built that to a new industry I never just thought I would enter into, adapting to that new way of doing business, and built a $50 million company right out of a pandemic. And so there's a huge opportunity for you to adapt, or if you're an entrepreneur who's looking for something new, this is an opportunity for you to do that. And so adapting, and just your ability also, like, to be flexible, for you to be able to be coachable, and for you to be able to understand that change is good. See, people fear change. And it is important for you to have stability. It is important for you to make sure that the team feels confident in your decision making. You're not constantly adapting. You're not constantly changing from one thing to another to a shiny object. That's why it's so important that when you make these decisions to adapt, it's based on data and it's based on intuition. So really studying the numbers and studying what's happening within the organization. And then also, like, what does your gut really tell you? And if you make decisions by both of those things, right? Like your mind brain, your heart brain, your gut, these are all this is intelligence here, intelligence here, intelligence here. Listening to your intuition is a huge indicator that I've relied on. And so when you make decisions that are data backed, but also backed by your intuition, you really mitigate that risk and mitigate losing. And so I think that this is such an important video for you guys. I'm curious, when was there a moment in your life where you've had to adapt, and what did you learn from that? What did you gain from that? Because sometimes it doesn't always work out. There's been many times I've adapted and it didn't work out, but I still learned something huge, and it still was a stepping stone to the next thing that set me up for massive success. So don't be so attached to the outcome. Be attached to the process, and be willing to change. Be willing to adapt, because when you're actually willing to do that, that's when, no matter what hits you, no matter what storm happens around you, you'll know that you're eventually going to make it through that challenge and make it through that obstacle and succeed. And the only entrepreneurs who ever truly fail are the ones who quit. The ones that adapt, they always will end up succeeding in the end. So adapt or die. Let me know in the comments. Subscribe. Peace.